to the old people, the horrific stories that I hear of old people who are buying cat food to eat themselves to survive.
You know, there's a phrase, banana republic, and I used to think that that was an interesting phrase, but it definitely did not apply to Canada, right? We're a real country. We're not an oligarchy or anything like that, but now I think about it, especially ever since the pandemic, it really does feel like Canada is kind of like a banana republic right now. We're going to talk about that very subject today and also look at some videos relating to taxes in Canada, prices of things going up, and the absurd job market. All very dystopian here in 2025. And with that being said, let's dive straight into these videos today.
This is a crazy true story, so bear with me. This CRA be like, oh, got our assessment in, my dear. We owe $70,000 in back taxes, but I have the money, so I'll just go ahead and pay the CRA. All right. Okay, $70,000 paid. Confirmation number, got it. Perfect. 2.5 years later. Hello? Hi, I'm calling from the CRA. I'm just looking at your account and there's a $70,000 credit sitting here. What would you like me to do with it? $70,000 credit? Oh no, I paid that 2.5 years ago. That was to go towards my back taxes. Why is it sitting in as a credit? You should have taken it 2.5 years ago. Yeah, well, somebody messed up, so it is sitting here as a credit. So, we noticed that you do owe back taxes for $70,000 plus interest now. No. That $70,000 that was paid should have went towards my taxes. You guys didn't claim it? Like I said, sir, it's just sitting as a credit right now. So, yeah, you're going to have to pay $70,000 in back taxes plus interest. Okay, this is an easy fix. Just take that money and apply it to my back taxes where it should have went in the beginning. No, sir. If you want that credit applied to your back taxes, then you need to call back someone at the CRA, not me, and get them to straighten it out. Until then, it will remain in a credit account, and you now still owe us $70,000 plus interest. So we took out a lien on your house, and we cut your pension by 50% until it's paid. Months later. My dear, I do not know what to do. I've been trying to get a hold of someone at the CRA to apply that $70,000 credit, but no one is picking up their phone. No one returns my messages. This 50% pension cut is not paying the bills. I don't know what we're going to do financially. We're kind of stuck.
Oops, sorry, we forgot to claim that money and put it towards the taxes. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut your pension by 50% and also take a lien on your house. You know how scary that is to have something like that happen to you? But these are true stories that have happened to Canadians with the CRA, which is basically the IRS here in Canada. Very scary. I think the CRA is overemployed compared to the IRS. I think it's like close to the same amount of employees, even though Canada's population is 5 times smaller than the United States. That's how bloated the government workforce here is in Canada.
Prince Albert just went through an absolutely crippling property tax increase, okay? More so than Saskatoon. It's out of control and there's people talking about it. So I'm going to explain why this property tax increase was not justified, according to reviewing the financials when I was running the mayor campaign. This is now back in October of 2023, okay? So over 2 years, Prince Albert increased their debt by 4 times. And that initially sounds pretty bad, right? In 2021, it was 19 million, and 2 years later, it was 85 million, okay? But they also increased their borrowing limit to 120 million. So if you have 85 million in debt and you increase borrowing limit to 120 million, for a city the size of Prince Albert, that's actually quite a bit of borrowing lending room before you hit an emergency situation, right? So that's why it wasn't justified, because they still had room, like to the max. I'm hearing 30% increases from some property owners. That is absolutely ridiculous if you're not in an emergency situation with your borrowing limit.
You know what annoys me the most about property taxes? I've already done a video about property taxes, but the thing that annoys me the most about property taxes is the fact that you can't opt out of it, right? It's not like a communal thing where you can choose to voluntarily offer your money to helping pave roads and stuff like that. But a lot of times that money doesn't even go to these programs or even go to the places you want them to go. It's basically just extortion, and you have to pay it. You say, hey, you're living in Canada, guess what? Property taxes are going up every year, sometimes even 30%.
Sure, I never thought I would see this day, but it's here. I mean, they're all looking for a job, like every single one of them. It's very sad to see this. I would never honestly thought in my life I would see this in Edmonton, Alberta. All these people, they're looking for a job. There used to be so much opportunities here. It was crazy. Now it's a war, man. It's so bad here. It's crazy. So yeah, if you're thinking of moving from Ontario to Alberta, Calgary is the same, man. This is Edmonton. It's very sad to see this, but it was never like this before. Good luck to all.
And honestly, he said right there, if you're moving from Ontario to Alberta, here's kind of like a warning of how bad the economy is. I actually did that move. I moved from Ontario to Alberta, but luckily I work for myself, so it wasn't as bad. I don't have to be lining up for these crazy jobs. And by the way, that's a grocery job. So these are people lining up for a minimum wage job. Did you see the size of that line? This is a minimum wage job.
Do you know how much wealth exists in Canada? Like as a dollar amount? Let me tell you, it's $17.5 trillion of wealth in Canada. Trillion with a T. That's from Stats Canada. But here's some other cool facts. There are 2 million millionaires in Canada and 67 billionaires. The top 10 billionaires combined hold about 2% of all the wealth in Canada. And the top 10% of the wealthiest Canadians hold 57% of the wealth. Hell, the top 1% hold a quarter of that alone. The next 40% hold another 40%. So if you're doing the math here, the top 50% of the wealthiest people in Canada hold 97% of the wealth. Meaning the bottom half combined, the yous and me's of the world, we only have 3%. Or should I say we're fighting to grab a small piece of that 3% that's left. And the wealthiest Canadians are trying to get that 3% too. And yet if they've somehow convinced you that the problem is people like you and me, everyday Canadians just trying to survive. Meanwhile, you could have a 50% tax on just the wealthiest person in Canada, and he could still afford to buy a professional hockey team and live the rest of his life in comfort. That person's name is David Thompson, and his net worth is an estimated $98 billion. If you think life is expensive because we give handouts to the bottom 50%, the yous and me's that only hold 3% of all the wealth in Canada, and it's not because of the top 10%, then you bought the propaganda. Here's a final thought. All of the labor comes from those of us in that bottom 50%. You only get to be in the top 10% when you exploit people for labor. You absolutely can do ethical things when you have billions of dollars, and you should. But I would say in most cases, you can't amass billions of dollars ethically. So next time someone says to you, social services funded by your tax dollars should be cut because we already pay too much in tax, ask them why they aren't equally mad at the top 10% of wealthiest Canadians who don't pay their share of taxes. Because if they did, we all would be paying much less in taxes and able to have a fully funded and prosperous social safety net.
Now, a lot of people who have a lot of wealth and they amass a lot of wealth, they create companies. And when you have a company, a lot of the times the way that you pay taxes is through your employees, right? Essentially, they're like tax cattle. That is why a lot of these wealthy people don't pay taxes. But still, I do agree, it is very unfair that people who are just like workers and salarymen in Canada have to pay the abundance of taxes for this country. It really does create a massive burden. But I can talk about taxes in another video. We're not going to talk specifically about that today.
How are you doing okay? No, seriously, I would love to know because I don't know anybody, a millennial, Gen Z, Gen X, boomers, with exception to the ones that have property that is worth 4 times as much now than it was 10 years ago. And the only reason that I'm doing okay is because my mother died in 2020 and I got some inheritance after the government took over $100,000 fucking dollars from me. I don't know anybody who's doing okay except for those boomers with their heads in the sand who are stoked that their houses are somehow worth $1 million now. Nobody is doing well in Canada except those lucky people. Nobody. It's broken. That's a fact. Mr. No profile picture, no likes. Yeah, you're a real person. No, you know what? I'm not even fucking done because this shit pisses me off because you're fucking lying. Tell that to the old people. The horrific stories that I hear of old people who are buying cat food to eat themselves to survive because that is the state of our country right now. What the fuck is wrong with you? And if you're actually a real goddamn person, which I don't fucking think you are the reason that people are suffering. You and your sick mentality and your sick fucking friends who voted for this shit. You are the death of this country. Congratulations.
Wow. Okay. So great video to end off there. That really does sum up everything in the most passionate rant and outburst that we've seen relating to this topic so far. It is kind of hilarious that I've seen comments like that as well on the channel, and then you look at their profile and it's like, oh, you've literally just created your account like within this week. Did you do it just to leave a comment like that on the channel? But that's social media for you, and that's Canada in 2025. Leave your thoughts down below about this video's subject, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.